Welcome back to another Pirkei Avot text explication with me, your host, Rabbi Drew. We are now on the 13th text in the 4th chapter of Pirkei Avot, and like we've seen earlier in this chapter, there are two rabbis making a statement. Somehow their advice, their statements got sandwiched together. Now, as opposed to some of the previous texts that have received that sort of that duo of advice, as it were, these are actually on the shorter end. This text actually makes sense if you're going to package any two sayings together. Might as well make them short ones. That is not always the case, but that's what we've got with us today. Now, the two rabbis mentioned are actually colleagues. They lived at the same time. They spoke with each other. They were in the same ring of sort of senior rabbis at the time in the late 2nd century. And they are Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Judah, and Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Simon. And the first of these is Rabbi Judah, Rabbi Yehuda, and this is a very short one. This is probably the shortest saying or advice that we have really encountered in Pirkei Avot to this point. And he says, Hevi Zahir b'Talmud, Sheshi got Talmud Ola Zadon. That's it. Now the English is, be careful in study, for an error in study counts as a deliberate sin. Now this is a fascinating positioning of this idea. What he is saying is you have to be careful with your study. And the actual language here is Talmud. And I think it's not just simply study, as if you're simply studying something or learning something, but putting things together and also sort of putting pieces of information together, yes, but also the way that you, maybe it's taking various scriptural, biblical texts and how to, I was going to use a fancy word, what type of hermeneutical strategy, but how do you take the scriptural text and put it into practice? Because then he says, Sheshiga got Talmud Ola Zadon, because even an accidental error, you got something mixed up in your study. Actually, it's not just study. Again, this is the translation here in front of us. It might actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I do like to say, I think hermeneutic makes sense. And what I mean by that word, which is a long word, it's a big word. Hermeneutics is basically taking something, a text, for instance, and translating it into practice. How do you use that into nowadays? And so what he's saying is, even if you accidentally screw something up in how you hermeneuticize, as it were, but how do you take that scriptural piece and put it into practice, into what people do, Ola Zadon, because ultimately that's going to result in people's practice being messed up. And people will purposefully do those actions, and if it's based on faulty, sort of faulty foundations, it's going to cause people to sin. So that is going back to the beginning of the statement. That's why it's important to Hevi Zahir, to be careful, to exercise caution. So, interesting statement from Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Judah here. Be careful in how you translate texts, to understand the texts, to put them into practice, because that has consequences that would basically, people would be willfully sinning. Okay. That's the first one. The second one is from Rabbi Simon, Rabbi Shimon. And he also has a fairly short statement, a little bit longer than Rabbi Yehuda's. And he goes back to three. Now, we've encountered three quite frequently in Pirkei Avot, especially in the first chapter, with three-part statements throughout. And he says, Shlosha Kitarim Haim. There are three crowns. Okay. Keter Torah, the Keter Kahuna, the Keter Malchut. So these are the three of them. There's the crown of Torah, there's the crown of priesthood, and the crown of I want to say monarchy, of royalty, of kingship. And then he finishes off, he concludes, the Keter Shem Tov Ola Al Gabehen. And but there are these three, But there's a fourth one, and it is on top of all of them, and that is of a good name. Or good name, yes, but probably a good, that's the literal translation, right? A good name supersedes all of them, but what good is a name? But reputation, I would say a good reputation supersedes all of them. So let's break down what these three individual ketarim, these three individual crowns are. Now the first one is, well, actually let me start with the third one. Actually, I'm going to work backwards, okay? The final one is Keter Malchut. So literally, whomever is the king, one who has the crown of the king, they are the king, and they have a lot of power. That's a pretty big crown to wear. Now the second one is Keter Kahuna. Now the priesthood, the priests that used to serve in the temple, but even after the temple was destroyed, we still have priesthood, even though there's not much that priests do nowadays. There are some things that are actually still in Jewish practice to this day, but a lot of the primary place of the practices of the priesthood really were in the temple. And this is okay. So there's some specialness that come with being a priest. There are some special things that that priests are supposed to do. Okay, great. And the first one of these is Keter Torah, or the Keter Torah. So what is the crown of Torah? So this is talking about people who study Torah, and Torah study have been a big overarching theme that we have experienced throughout Pirkei Avot. The study of Torah is paramount, and it's the lifeblood of the Jewish people. And so this, as the first crown being mentioned here, is clearly important. That ascending, I don't know if it's necessarily ascending to the top, but definitely studying and really earning a deep and vast knowledge of Torah and Jewish observance is important. Certainly important here in the language of Rabbi Simon. So these are the three ones that we experience in Jewish life. You have the king, you have the priests, and you have the ability to study Torah. Great. And then he says the Keter of Shem Tov. So there's no real crown for this. It's not as unique of a sort of a grouping of people that can acquire it. It's really much more for the masses. Although the study of Torah, think about it, there can only be one king, and the rules for being king are, not everybody can be king. Priesthood, okay, so it's only priests. That's a family heritage, a lineage thing. Keter Torah, not everybody studies Torah. Not everybody is deeply and knowledgeable in the study of Torah. But Keter Shem Tov, the crown of a good reputation, that for Rabbi Simon here, for Rabbi Shimon, is a much more accessible one. It's not one, he's pointing out, it's not one that we necessarily have in Jewish life, but it's important. Or it's not one inscribed within sort of formal parameters within Jewish life, but he's saying this one actually supersedes it. It is on top of all of them. So this is it's a pretty big one. Shem Tov, good reputation. So the good reputation is very important, and that's certainly something that gets a real boost here from Rabbi Simon, Rabbi Shimon. So that's what we got. We got Rabbi Yehuda advising caution and care with translating stuff into practice, and then we have Rabbi Simon saying there's three different crowns, but above them all is the crown of a good reputation. So thank you so much again for watching, and I'll see you around.